right, so we're sitting here, of course, in this rock cave, talking to the one and only world famous Jay Brewer, Prehistoric Pets, and Buy a Reptile on Instagram and YouTube.
I'm not so sure about that world famous, but at least I'm having fun.
We got some absolutely incredible retic stuff here, and we're just gonna kind of pick Jay's brain a little bit. So Jay, how did we get here?
How did we get here?
Tell me your story, man.
It's a very exotic story. Basically, when I was really young, I was poor. I was actually adopted, and my adopted dad, we didn't have any money, so to say the least, I didn't get the cool bicycles and all the cool fun stuff. So guess what I did? I made do with it. I went down in the ditches and hunted frogs and stuff all night long and played in the water and hunted in the back fields for snakes and lizards and alligator lizards, different kinds of things, horny toads, all kinds of little animals that I used to keep. And then eventually I started taking them to pet stores and trading them for more exotic things, because back then you could catch them and trade them and sell them and all that.
And about how far back are we talking?
We're talking when I was like 7.
Oh man,
8.
That's been a little while.
That's been a couple days. We won't talk about that. How many days that's been.
So we've probably seen all the videos by now. I've been able to cruise around and check out the facility, and I know you've been going through a big reno and expansion lately that's still underway.
Hope you like it.
Yeah, fantastic, man. I appreciate you having us down here for sure. But tell me a little bit about the place. What do you got here?
So what I got here is basically a continuation of that kid running around catching everything. Because I also didn't do very good in school because it ended up being really poor and all the things that come along with that. I'd lost my adopted mother. I was adopted in the first place. I'd lost my adopted mother when I was 4. And so that gave them an excuse to not pressure me in school, and I just ran with it, and so I didn't do good in school. Plus, I might be a little bit different, not very good at learning, to be completely honest. A lot of learning disabilities, but guess what? Animals made me learn a lot. Nobody would question if I understand genetics.
Yeah, you obviously found your niche in life, that's for sure. Everybody, Jay talks about it in his videos and that his hashtag living the dream.
Right.
And that's really the nuts and bolts of it, is find something that you're absolutely passionate about. And even if it's something that your family or your friends...
Nobody else doesn't need to understand.
And nobody needs to know or care. I mean, look, we obviously at Morphmixology, we were brand new, and this is why we do this segment, is because I seem to find that a lot of the history in, especially the older guys in the hobby, they always started up because they were out when they were kids, catching rat snakes and king snakes and stuff in their front yard. And we're not that way. I mean, less than a year ago, I was deathly afraid of snakes. You would have never found me right here. And it's been through videos from guys like you and that has brought myself and my wife out of the shell to experience this, and now we're obviously completely hooked.
And here's the funny part, okay? So let's just say traditional America. We'll just call it traditional America. You work your butt off so you can save up enough money so that you can take a vacation. Doing something a lot of times you don't like. Absolutely. In order to take a couple weeks a year off to do something you love. Well, I thought, what if I cut the middleman out of that and I try to do something that I love that I barely want to take a vacation from?
And man, so you're just a kid in a candy store here.
Well, that's exactly how I chose what I was going to do for a living. I had my dad drank himself to death when I was 14, so I ended up, and because I was adopted and they were older, I had no relatives. Wow. So it sounds like, oh, bummer, but you know what? I really look back at my life and I don't regret it, because I don't think anybody would have condoned what I ended up doing for a living. At 14, I started working towards building a boat. At 15, I finished my boat. At 15, I started my first business, catching fish to sell them. And I made enough money that in 16, my counselor came to me and told me, "Why are you even in school? You suck at school." She didn't say that, but she said, "You're not doing that well in school. You're too far behind. You make more money than I do. I really think you ought to pursue your career." And then I proceeded to exit school at 16 years old, which I do not recommend anybody in the world to do. But I was really, truly behind. She made a really good call. She'd probably be thrown in jail today for it. But I think that most people would agree that she made a good call.
Absolutely. You've amassed a world-class collection, obviously.
And you're the other extreme. You managed through everything, went to the right schooling, and you got a great job. doing a really
and now
a really cool career.
Yeah, now I've found myself in a position where I can have the hobby
to enjoy.
So I don't have to go on vacation because I can stay home and play with the animals.
Right, exactly. So you kind of got a little bit of both worlds.
A little bit, yeah.
You get to do something that you've always liked, flying. I mean, you're not flying, but you know, it's still obviously something you liked, right?
Oh yeah.
And so he gets to play working. So I do recommend that when you're looking for a job, find something you're going to enjoy. And if you're in a job you hate, as much as I hate to say it, find a different job. Now, I'm not telling you to go quit your job today and lose your house and your family and all. I'm not condoning that. You got a big responsibility. You got yourself where you are. But try to find something that, you know, you can maybe part-time to transition into. Sometimes I get people, they save up a bunch of money and they want to take all their money they're saved up to buy reptiles to do it for a living. And I always tell them, whoa, 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 deep breath. How about you transition into that? And so, like, I was even recommending to him, you know, oh, well, you know what? You got a lot of snakes. Maybe you ought to pull back for a little bit and let the business take care of itself. Build it as a real business, treat it as a real business, and let it pay for its next investment.
Absolutely.
So, not like people live a dream, but I also want them to live a dream that's reality. Because you can just dream and never work. And I'll tell you, one thing I had to do is work my butt off to get where I'm at. This snake right here I got 8 years into. That snake right here I got 8 years into.
So speaking of which, what do we got here, Jay? What have you come up with?
Well, this is a albino golden child, orange ghost stripe, and sunfire. And so it's never been produced. I have a super son that I produced last year. And so anyway, 8 years, a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, and a decent investment to start off with. The first snake I paid $14,500 and bred it to a bunch of world's first that, you know, some rare snakes that would have been a lot of money. And I ain't talking $1,400 and I'm not talking $14. $14,000 and I paid. And to be honest, I had bad luck. I lost the original male within a month of getting the 2 girls pregnant that I got pregnant. And then I had a series of setbacks, so it took me 8 years from beginning to completion.
Jeez.
And so at the same time, you know what? You got to be perseverant in anything you do. You can't just give up. You don't want to chase a bad dream, but if you really believe in it, you should never give up, period.
So obviously, Jay is famous on YouTube for his retake stuff, for the egg cuttings, for the clutches you come up with.
Most people don't really even know about this behind the scenes
Yeah,
thing.
So tell me a little bit about the zoo. What kind of stuff do you have here? How many animals you keep in and stuff like that? What's your plan for the next couple of years here?
The plan is possibly to open up a few more zoos. I've got 3 in the mental works. We'll see what happens because it takes money to have dreams.
Elsewhere? Or,
yeah.
In different locations?
It's, you know, I mean, to be honest, I just came through one of the biggest fights in my life getting this location established because the city, I don't think, was really pro reptiles everywhere. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of liabilities that come with it in respects of if there ever was a fire, how many animals they have to try to save. And, and then they had to consider, you know, wow, how do you save a 250-pound alligator, you know? And a lot of their concerns, I think, were met through this process, but it was a very tough process.
Yeah.
And I say I'm living the dream. That doesn't mean I'm rich. That just means I'm rich in the things that matter to me. I've got a great family. I got awesome kids. I get to work with I've worked with one of my daughters about 12 years. She's not with me right now, but she's coming back maybe. My other daughter I've been working with for, I don't know, 15 years. And we work with my wife and all that. I just really enjoy that kind of being from a zero relative background. To be able to work with my family's pretty important. And the weird part about it is now I found my real dad, my real mom, and like a billion relatives that I don't even know their names. So it's been literally a dream my whole life. This whole thing is just like one thing unrolling at a time. You know what? I'm going to be the first one to tell you. There's so many details, it's mind-blowing. I'm actually starting a book in a month.
Excellent. Wow. We'll have to keep up with Jay on that.
A book. Can you believe that?
And,
wait, you won't believe it until you hear some of the details.
And of course, it's going to be titled Living the Dream, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny is I don't know the title yet. I'm still mentally looking that up in my mind. I used to have a name. Everybody's heard some of the details of my story. Always, you should write a book. And I kept saying, well, I will when I really make it. And I started thinking, How are you gonna? What do you mean? Why do you care if you really make it? You've already made it. You just don't. That's the other thing. Quit comparing yourself to other people.
Everyone's
just
definition.
because I have some really snake that you may never produce, so what? I didn't have this when I was probably your age, unless you're really old right now. Took me a lot of years to get to my dreams. And you know what? My dreams are my dreams, your dreams are your dreams, and I want everybody to know, man, don't get caught up in other people's dreams. Yeah. Find your own destiny, your own purpose in life, your own road.
So in an average year, how many reticks and how many balls would you say you produce?
Probably I don't really produce that many balls. I don't know. Did JT tell you how many?
Not a whole lot. I mean, there's obviously
quite 300 balls, I think, is all we're down to now. We did more, but to be honest, I kind of lost interest in the ball pythons. It was actually something I did for trying to make extra money instead of doing it for my passion.
Yeah.
And it didn't work that great for me, to be honest. I kept telling myself, what are you doing? What are you doing this for? Because you're not really living up to who you say you are. And I still breed them, but like I was telling him, I basically chose, I told Jason, I chose to basically get ball pythons again some because one of my employees loves ball pythons. So at the end of the day, why in the world, if he's going to work here, invest his time, I might as well invest in his things that he likes to enjoy. And, he likes reticks too, and we got that covered.
Yeah.
But it was something he wanted to do. He did a good job. He produced 200 or 300 eggs and out of a minimal size colony, and you got to see some of them.
Yep.
A few cool snakes.
He's got some pretty interesting stuff back there for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I've always been interested in, though, in the retick game, I watch a lot of your videos of pulling clutches and cutting eggs and whatnot, and it seems like, because some of the subscribers know that in Montana in particular, the big snakes are not allowed.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know what it's based off of.
Probably fear.
It must, well, of course. We already know that because,
But with
my
places,
goodness, skateboards are more dangerous than big
of course,
snakes.
these are obviously terrors for sure. But
right.
But obviously with the advancements of the Lacey Act over the last couple of years, and I know you guys were having problems getting.
No, we finally got that out from back.
Yeah, we were having issues getting them across state lines and stuff like that.
Right.
And you look at some of those clutches that they produce 50, 60 eggs at a time.
Right.
Was there a period of time over the last couple of years where you noticed it was hard to move the volume?
I think it's always hard to do bigger snakes compared to, say, ball pythons. Ball pythons, there's always a price you can sell them all tomorrow for. Mm-hmm. With reticks, that isn't necessarily true. So,
they're all cute and cuddly at this size, but some
right.
of them are gonna...
Now, that being said, the market's rebounding hard, finally. And, when I started reticks, there was no market. Everybody said they were mean, nasty creatures, and they bit, and they were all aggressive. Well, not only were they not true, on top of not being true even then, the more generations we get in, the calmer and the more mellow they get, and to the point where they're just like a Burmese python or anything else. So, that being said, am I going to sell a 14-year-old a snake that is going to potentially get 8, 10, 12 feet? Who knows? I mean, if the 14-year-old's crazy enough to throw giant rabbits by the time he's 18, it could be even bigger.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. I believe that, I don't sell a sulcata tortoise this big and not tell them that they're going to get 150 pounds.
And outlive them.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've always come from the background of education, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the zoo, is that now all of a sudden, the hard-learning little kid has turned this place into a giant educational place that little kids come to, get the interest in animals, and go spend their lives either working at veterinarians, zoos, all different kinds of stuff. I get an absolute minimum of 10 or 12. How do I get your job? What school do I have to go to? How do I have to do it? Well, you just heard my story, and I always have to come clean and say, I don't have a degree. I have a degree in hard knocks is about all I got. But I also tell them that I decided what I wanted to do. I had to buy a business, build the business, and change the business into what it is today in order to make a position for me. And of course, if you're in school, that isn't necessarily all needed. So you can get a lot further in a shorter amount of time than I still have lousy, reading and writing, luckily I'm okay with arithmetic. All I do is put a dollar sign in front of it and realize how many of those I have to have at the end of the month in order to stay open. And I somehow manage.
Well, you're pretty well versed in tech and that. I mean, you got Instagram and YouTube all locked. That's for sure.
I got that blowed up.
You got that all figured out.
I think I'm going to hit 500,000 on YouTube within a couple weeks.
That's going to be awesome. So as it comes to the zoo that you've got going here, I know you're still working on some of the big retake cages.
I've got four enclosures, and then I got to go back and remodel some of the other enclosures. So I started out as a pet store. Because in the beginning, I basically had the old build it and they'll come. Long before they said build it and they'll come,
yep.
I was doing it. And instead of putting money in advertising, I put it into cool animals, bigger caging, and eventually, what I have today. And so, this is the portion we're sitting in is in the beginning of the zoo era. Because that's when I went and decided, okay, I don't want to sell snakes as much. I don't want to sell lizards as much. I don't want to have to, So I kind of started flipping my model upside down. From a pet store to schools and education to the zoo. And so I basically started deciding, okay, I want to go zoo, schools, education, all that, and then sell reptiles, which has helped me be able to afford all this, has been working real hard with my year. And I don't want to give these up because this is actually my passion. It kind of fuels me for more school, more education. I thought about it really hard, and I thought, what if you were to just go to zoos? I realized I don't want to go to zoos. I want to breed animals, and which means I have to sell some of them, to be honest, because you can't just breed one. I mean, you get, like you said, you get a clutch, and today we cut a clutch of 14 eggs.
It seems fairly small in the retic world.
Yeah, that's all because everybody's got this pipe dream. You got the ball python. You got haters out there saying, oh, retics lay 50 eggs a clutch and they're flooding the market and they don't know what they're doing. And all of them have 3 snakes and they're lucky if they get 60 babies, and they're worried about what somebody else is doing because it just, you know what? I don't want to go there. It just, at the end of the day, if every retic laid 50 eggs, there would be a flood of baby retics. And I did have to cut back for a little bit. For 2 reasons. The zoo was overwhelmingly hard to get done, all the expansion, and the market was a little bit messed up from all that 7 years of fighting in the government.
Yeah.
Now that it's gone, I'll probably try to bump it up again a little bit and be prepared for it. But I did keep moving forward on really rare stuff because at the end of the day, I didn't care if there wasn't a market. I was still going to do what my heart desire was, and I decided. People call me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Other breeders would call me, what are you going to do? I said, I always say I do this because I love it. So why is it matter?
Yeah.
If I'm doing it because I love it, why do I care what somebody else thinks if it's going to be illegal or... So I just kept moving forward.
Well, in that clutch that we cut today, I mean, it was only 14, but you pulled another world's first out there and some absolutely incredible animals. So it just goes to show you don't need to be swinging for the fences for these massive clutches and that. You're being very deliberate.
Really, honestly, you can't swing into the fence because, I think that had 19 babies, 19 eggs laid, and a couple slugs, and we hatched 14. Mm-hmm. And, for a retic, to be honest, a 25 egg clutch is very common for the first year. And if you feed your snakes too much and make giant snakes, I was telling you, they don't breed.
Yeah.
And then when they finally do breed, they'll lay 50 eggs. But you'll miss 4 years trying to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the year, you end up losing too many anyway. So
when it comes to the future of the zoo and that, is there anything, any kind of animal that you don't currently have here on display or as a pet or whatever? Is there something so crazy and unique that you're looking to put in here?
Well, to put in here, I'm probably going to have everything I want.
Okay.
The next zoo, I want to put like a 15-foot croc or 18-foot croc.
One of the big monsters.
Monster croc. I just want a centerpiece that blows people's minds because I think when you shock people, they're actually ready to be educated.
Yeah.
That sounds really funny, but like I figured out that even the snake video one of the snake videos that made me more popular was a snake striking at me, and then people thought I was crazy. But then it opened up their mind to go, it didn't hurt him, it didn't kill him, and that was a giant snake.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started asking the questions, and they started going, why am I scared of snakes?
Yeah.
And they started backpedaling, and it's amazing how many people ended up deciding that they wanted to be snake people.
That was me, really. I mean, that's the whole point of this "How did we get here" segment is, I come from a very different beginning than obviously you and a lot of the breeders did.
Right.
And that was what it was. It was videos and the education and learning that obviously they're not vicious, they're not out to kill you, they're not going to, swallow you whole or whatever. And even if you do happen to get tagged by one, it's really not all that big a deal.
Hey,
and the
you
big
can get hurt. You can get hurt walking. You can get hurt hiking. You can get hurt in your skateboard. You can get hurt anywhere. If you're gonna spend your whole life in fear, you're probably gonna not have much of a life. So in reality, am I telling everybody to go pick up a rattlesnake? Of course not. But you can at least decide what is something that you like enough that you're willing to, to live a little bit to enjoy it.
I think that's a great way to put it. And of course, Jay, again, thanks for having us out here.
I'm glad to have you. I mean, you've been nothing but a pleasure.
This has been an absolute dream come true.
There you go, you guys. See that? That's what fuels the world. Passion.
Genuine passion.
There you go.
In everything you do, that's something it's tattooed on my body. It's something I believe in.
You can't buy it. You can't sell it. You can't bottle it. But I'll tell you one thing you can't do. You definitely can't do. You can't stop it.
That's right. Thanks a lot, Jay. We'll definitely be back.
Pleasure.
I'll put all the descriptions for Jay's channels and Instagram.
Come visit me.
Come down to LA. Come say hi.
Yeah, even visit us online.
And see what he's got going on. And we'll keep an eye on the book process. We'll have to put
It's
blast.
going to be pretty shocking, I think, because there's a lot of crazy stories that are too crazy for a 15-minute video.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Jay.
Peace out, guys.
See you.